What if what you really need is a break? A break is what you need to live a more meaningful life. I have the perfect guest for you today. Paula Smith has an incredible story of her own journey to find a meaningful life and actually a whole different life. You got to tune in to hear this. To the art of a meaningful life. And today, oh my gosh, I am truly excited about this because it's not often I get to meet someone that I follow on Instagram like closely because this is Paula Smith. Paula, I love your posts. I love your reels, and now I'm a big fan of your photography. I
Thank
had
you.
I had no idea you were so talented.
Honestly, I do feel like it's a little bit of a gift. It's not something I've been doing for a long time. But it's cool because I mean, I've been following you because of your photography. So it's kind of cool that it happened like this, right? And I
Oh,
mean, we've been following fairly closely, right?
yes. Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because I'm like as you could probably tell, I'm like totally coming from the heart here when I see someone that I really love to and I'm interested in what they're saying and doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably like tell it with okay, I'm an emoji girl and all the exclamation points. I'm like the same as I was in junior high if we would have had emojis back then.
I'm an emoji queen too. I mean, you got to express yourself. How else are you going to do it?
Somehow, right? Somehow. Hey, before we get on more though, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So, Hmm. I'll start with a little bit of story and background and how I got into what I do with like my coaching and stuff, and then just how things have progressed, if that works for you. So,
Yeah.
grew up on Vancouver Island, Canada. Had a, how do you say it? There's parts of my childhood I would say were idyllic and parts that were very abusive. But a lot of it I didn't see until I was in my 30s and I really started struggling in my relationship with depression, anxiety, and stuff like that. I was on all different kinds of like anxiety meds and depression, and probably like 8 different over 15 years kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, I was in a toxic relationship that I couldn't see for what it was because of the relationship that I saw my parents modeling. So in certain ways, it wasn't as bad as that, if that makes sense. Like,
It seemed normal
because
to you.
well, and I didn't experience physical abuse, and there was certain, it was emotional abuse.
Yeah.
It was a narcissistic relationship, and so it took me 3 times to get out of that. Um, and I had to go really low to come back from that. I was like in a travel trailer for a year with like a hole in the floor. Like, I mean, when I left, I had to leave without anything to be able to do it
Mhm.
because I knew that fighting him financially and for support and stuff would only break me more. Like I was like broken as someone can be. Like,
Wow.
so I had to
Still,
build back from that. But
yeah.
being cracked open like that, there is something to that. Um, and having to start from nothing because like that was in the winter of like, or the end of the summer in 2020. And I look at where I'm now and the new place that I just moved into. And like, honestly, I couldn't ask for more right now. Like,
Wow.
I'm
Yeah.
super, super grateful where how the journey has taken me.
Yeah. I guess it's
So,
that walk through the dark, right? You to take that dark of the night to go through it and not
and I
turn
mean,
around
it
and
felt like I was going to be there forever. There was times where you're in between, you're not the old you anymore, but you're not the new you. And there was a couple years of just like, I just couldn't break out. And it was just, so that's why I really try to inspire people because I want them to know, like, you will, if you keep working, there will be a moment and it might be like right around the corner.
yeah.
And
It's
it
a
could be because that was how it happened for me. I didn't know how close I was to it. It was just like, just kind of happened.
Yeah. So what was the tipping point? What was because I think a lot of us has reached that dark of the night and it just seems like there's no hope, right? There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Like what
Honestly, part of it was revisiting. So when I left my relationship, I went 2 years no contact, and I dove into healing. I was meditating every day, like hours a day. I had nothing else to do. I couldn't work. I would had been diagnosed with like CPTSD. So like my brain felt scrambled. Like, and so, and I knew meditation, I could feel the difference that that was making. And I
Mm-hmm.
instinctively knew to just keep going with that. And so a couple of years later, after healing for a couple of years, I had the opportunity I finally had enough money put together to get a lawyer and try to get some money from my ex. And I needed it. I
Mm-hmm.
was at the point where I had gotten 2 years in, but business wise and stuff like that, if anything had gone wrong, I could have like ended up on the street. You know what I mean?
That
Like
close,
I
right?
was just
Mhm.
getting by.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I finally had the opportunity because he was selling our house. So I was able to get not a lot, but get some financial help. But
Mm-hmm.
that also meant I had to face him again.
Mm.
And it parts you could think that I had to step backwards because there were certain things. And I look at the way that it all played out now, and it was all supposed to happen how it did like that. And that's where I ended up getting blue back was during that whole scenario.
Blew your
Um,
dog.
yeah. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
didn't have him for a couple of years, and
Oh,
my ex was going traveling. And so he said, "Do you want to take Blue?" So that was how I
mhm.
got him back.
Wow.
Um,
Well, and and I can't help thinking too that you said 2020, we're all
yeah.
in the scary pandemic time too, right? During all of this.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that was the thing. So I'm in this trailer. We're not even supposed to be having visitors at certain points of it. Like it
Yeah.
was very isolating. Like
Wow.
my sons couldn't just come visit me whenever they wanted. And I mean, I was about an hour and a half away from them at the time.
Mm.
And my circle was really small because once I realized the toxicity and started learning about relationships, a lot of other things I had to start
Yeah.
closing out. It's amazing when you're raised a certain way in your level of normal, what
Right.
ends up being in your life, right?
Yeah. So it is
And that's
that the
painful.
yeah, and the saying that we are basically the some of the five people closest to us. Like that's
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
our ceiling, right? And so as you're healing and you're listening to stuff and people are saying, you're like, wow, that doesn't really ring true for me anymore.
No.
And so and then we're in a pandemic and you're isolated and it's time.
But
How do
I
you
mean,
expand
kind
your
of
circle,
perfect,
right?
right?
What's that?
Yeah, well, it just stayed closed for a while and I just focused on my healing. Like I really did. And I always got out for hiking and exercise. That was always part of my thing.
Oh,
Um,
oh,
and yeah. And I
yeah, the
mean,
healing
where I'm
power.
at, that was very therapeutic. And that's why I don't know if you've seen what I'm doing recently, but I've brought in, so I'm doing one on one hikes with people, and we'll still be doing like the inner child work and the mindfulness and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
I
I
think
have an area that I'm going to take them.
I saw that, Paula. And my first thought, I'm going to tell you the truth, is I thought, because
Okay.
I'm a weenie, I'm going to freeze my butt off out there. That looks really cool. But I'm a weenie. I'll just say that. And then I thought, I don't know. I think the most healing thing for me is to walk in nature and to
Yeah.
just have like actually no agenda, just walk and take it in. And it's like I say, God is at eye level, and I see the world in a whole different way, and I feel it in a whole different way. And if there's ever a time where, I need, like, if my husband and I, if we have something important to talk about and stuff, if we're just walking and taking a hike, it is completely different than if we're
Yeah.
sitting at a table trying to talk. It's just a whole different. So I totally love what you're doing with that.
Well,
And
that was how I discovered it because during the pandemic, there was like two people that I would hike with, like a couple of best friends, and we were all on our own healing journeys.
mhm,
And we would talk about what was going on, and
yeah,
those conversations were potent. That's when we were having our aha moments. It was almost like we were all working on learning how to like coach each other, and it was like we were all. It was an interesting dynamic, but I
mhm,
saw the magic for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I like that word too. It's like magical, but it's there. It's like just right there for us, right?
Well, I think the movement when we have trauma and things like that too, combining that movement and the talking, I see there's definitely something to all that. I feel like it helps move it through us even
Oh,
smoother.
well, absolutely. So from the science point, of course, that
Mm,
physical activity changes the chemicals, the hormones in our brain, and changes how we think and how we judge and decide things even, right? And then when you add nature to that,
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been great. I went yesterday and did a hike with my cousin. He was one of the people that I originally would hike with, and I hadn't hiked with him for a while. And so it was pretty cool because the conversations were powerful and potent. And he was just like, oh, he's like, I had a feeling you were gonna like pop back in and we were gonna get to do this. And
Uh,
it's exciting, it's fun.
yeah. Yeah.
And
I
yeah, I'm excited to share it.
Oh, and I'm excited to follow for that. And I think too, being in nature, walking, it's really difficult to BS your way through any kind of conversation, right? It's
Isn't
just
it?
real. It's
It's
just gonna be
real.
real. Yeah.
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 All right. So I have a question in my head, and I'm not sure that, and I'm not going to assume that you've already answered that, but I think like, what does living a meaningful life mean to you now?
To me now, I would say the first thing that popped in my head when you said that was me being able to live an authentic life, a life of freedom, of purpose, of being being intentional with what I do and who I'm around and like how I spend my time.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty much it. Like if you sum it up, and like authenticity, like being authentic is huge to me and
Hmm.
living an authentic life. The
Yeah.
freedom part, years of being in an abusive relationship, um, is huge because it's like freedom is, I mean, it can be in all different aspects of our life, right?
Yeah. Right. Right. I was just gonna, and in fact, that was the question. And that when you say
Mm-hmm.
freedom to,
Freedom to explore, to adventure, to do what we want in life, to be us. You know what I mean? Free to be us and speak our truth.
speak. Hmm. Hmm.
All of those kind of things, freedoms to like explore careers that we want. I mean, I would have never thought, if you asked me even 4 years ago, I wouldn't have guessed that this is what I would be doing for work. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've, so you have a coaching practice. Yes.
Right.
And obviously you do a lot online. That's where how we met. How do you balance between, especially when we're thinking about authenticity, right? How are you
Mm-hmm.
balancing between authenticity, showing up online, and and then what I call real life in person?
Right. Right.
You know?
So I have another business too. That's the thing of I've had a landscaping business that I've had for 20 years the whole time. So that's why this time of year I told you that I took a little bit of a break.
Ah,
It was because I needed a break. Normally, my plan was to go full tilt during my break from landscaping into the coaching.
okay.
Wasn't I didn't have that in me, and my higher self, my inner being said, take the time to
Hmm.
rest more and just post and create as you felt. And so that was I dove into the photography that because that's I mean that's a passion, that's a hobby, and so is the hiking. So that's how I started doing all of that. Um, but pretty much how do I do it? It's listening to my inner self and following my intuition and stuff like that. And I feel like slowing down sometimes gets us way further ahead. And then so it was funny because you had a podcast recently that I listened to, the first one, and you were talking about meditating and having the creative ideas start coming in and being able to sit and not get distracted by them and let them keep coming. And you said all these like juicy things were coming in. Well, this
Yeah.
new place, I haven't had a bathtub for 2.5 years. And then I've had a shower. And the new place I moved in has a bathtub. And I was having a bath the other day. And I'm very connected if I meditate when I'm in water.
Uh-huh.
And the bath has always been like a powerful thing for me. If I meditate, I connect really quickly and deeply.
Ah.
So I was like, I'm going to meditate today. Well, guess what came in right away? The hiking, the mindful adventure, taking people in or taking people out hiking. It just like popped in. And then these other things just kind of came in, and it was hard because it is exciting, and you almost like you said, want to like write things down or something, or kind of like start on them.
Mhm.
So, but what I'm saying is when I slow down enough, if I'm busy and I'm just getting by, and I'm just like shit's hitting the fan and stuff like that, and I'm just surviving, those things don't come in the same way.
No. Yeah, yeah, there's just too much noise to be able to
Mm-hmm.
hear it, right? If
Yeah,
you're it's like these intuitive hits but if there's too much going on, you won't hear it or you get in the way. And it's almost like I just
exactly.
deflect it, right? Yeah, I
Yeah,
think you're referring to the podcast after my second eye surgery, I think, in my eyes.
I think so. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
so.
still recovering. Gee, when I think about it, if when they said you're going to have blurred vision for a while, I should have asked like how long. I think if they would have said 3 or 4 months, it'd be like, 5 seconds. Hold the fort there. But yeah, one of the good things, if you could call it that, is just to manage the pain. I just went into this visualization and this meditation and just it was just it's almost like I'm observing it too and going, oh, this idea and that idea, and I just had to like have no judgment and just let it like flow over and then not interrupt myself because I'm an
That part.
overachiever.
That
Yeah,
part.
that's hard. That's really hard. And I'm thinking, and there's this part of me that's observing, go, ooh, that's juicy. I need to write that down. And then like stop myself and go, no, just go. You won't forget. It's okay. Just go with it. And it was just such a luxury to be able to do that for me. And I thought, oh, good lesson learned
Well,
because
I'm so glad that I heard you talking about that, because that was almost a reminder for me, because that was actually in my head while all of those things were flowing, because I just it would only been like a few weeks or a couple of weeks since I listened to your.
really.
So yeah, so it was interesting because I was like, okay, just kind of stay with it and don't get all,
That's so wonderful. Well, thank you for that. That's a wonderful gift. I think for all the work we do, while it's a calling from our heart, there's that hope that I hope someone who needs to hear this hears this. You
That's
know,
right.
I
Yeah.
hope they
Well,
do.
there you go. You already know that someone's
Thank you.
resonating with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that so much. And and I think one of the things that's attractive that caught my attention in your posts and in your reels and things is that you are just so authentic. So that is to me it has been a challenge, I think, up until more recently. And maybe it's because I turned 65. I don't know. And I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna say what I need to say. If people love it, they
It's
love it. If they don't,
time.
it's what I want. It's my voice.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm trying to say is I let go of all those that little voice over here saying people aren't going to like that. Nobody's going to really want to hear that. Nobody cares. And who do you think you are? And da da da. Da. I'm like, whatever. If it's not now, when is it going to be? I'm just going to be
No, good
me.
for you. And
It's
that was kind of what happened to me. I think I've always tried to be authentic,
uh-huh.
but there was a piece of me that was also at the same time trying to fit into a box for everybody else.
Hmm.
Meaning I had a role that I had played my whole life, and it was
Yeah.
my job to take care of people and please people. And I
Yeah.
was it never was me though.
Yeah, and the word authenticity is just tossed around so much, and I think you've done a great job of describing that is letting those other voices go.
Yeah, and it's just also it's knowing that, like, we're vulnerable, like you said, you're talking, you're sharing and stuff like that. And especially when I first started coaching and going online, oh, the itchiness and the cringiness of being as vulnerable as I was. But I mean, okay, so we're going to go back a little bit, and you asked me kind of like how it all began.
Yeah.
Was I had a moment where, after a really dark period, I woke up one morning, the sun was coming in my window beautifully, just kind of hitting my bedroom, and I had that, that just a relief of things are a little bit better today.
Mm.
And but also in that same moment, knowing, I don't know where it came from, but that all the work that I had been doing for the past years wasn't just for me. that I was going to be able to share it, and seeing the value in what I was learning and all the healing things and everything I had gone through.
Mm-hmm.
That it was, I wanted to be able to share it because it was what I needed, if that makes sense. So like I wanted to be able to share with people what I needed when I was on the journey and I was looking for. And if people had like, if I heard more people sharing their story and saying that you can make it out and you can live like a fulfilling life, and it can be better than you can even imagine right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I couldn't imagine that it would be like this. I
Right.
just wanted to feel better.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that I could be thriving, you know what I mean? And live a life where like every freaking day I'm like grateful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that moonshot vision. What is that big
Mm-hmm.
vision, right?
Yeah.
That we're almost afraid to even say it out loud, right? And
Yeah.
have this what do you not even think about how am I going to get there? Just have the faith you're going to get there, but to, at least you know where you're going. You
Yeah.
have like, and
And so,
it's
so then I
not
took a
something you make
coaching
up.
course.
It's in you, right?
It is in you. And I think that if you can like follow that spark, I mean, that was what it wasn't always there. I wouldn't say the spark was always there, but it would show up when I needed it, just enough to get me to
Yeah.
where I needed to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of paying attention to that. And being
Mm-hmm.
inspired by yourself. I think that's a potent thing, is to learn to be inspired by your journey. So
Yeah.
being able to like look back and reflect and see what you've done and how strong you actually are, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's powerful.
Yeah, and I heard you say in the beginning it took you 3 times to remove yourself from a relationship that wasn't good for you, right?
Yeah.
So no judgment about them or what have you, but it wasn't good for you, and it was you needed to move on, and so it's trials and growth, and it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that's life, right? I mean.
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's that.
And parts of me have, I have to say, for the first couple of years when I got on the other side of things, and since I've been feeling good, I would say that I had no regrets, meaning you could put me back in that situation and I would actually be fine or understand why I went through it all, because I was so grateful to have the information and to be who I am now and to be able to look at life the way that I do. I know that I'm lucky to have that. I
Hmm.
know a lot of people would do a lot to have the insight and stuff and be as content as I am. I
Hmm.
know that it's a gift. But the only regret that I would say that I have, and this goes into the inner child healing piece, is that I talk a lot about how important the first 7 years is in our childhood, because we're getting our, we're being, we come up with our beliefs, our subconscious beliefs, our beliefs in ourselves, our beliefs in the world, like that little inner voice gets installed in our head and stuff like
Hmm.
that. So
Hmm.
for me, the most difficult piece is that I have 2 sons who are adults now, and there will be pieces of them that they have to heal
Hmm.
because of who I like. I'm not, I mean, I was the best mother I could be,
Hmm.
right?
With what you
That
had.
was always like my main goal. And I am glad that they were always, no matter what was going on, I was able to keep them my main focus. That
Hmm.
doesn't mean that things don't affect you, you know what I
I
mean? Or
totally
if them.
get that.
And
Right.
so one of the reasons is not, I don't believe in inner child healing because that was what healed me, but also because the more we heal as parents, and at like the sooner that we do, the less we pass on and the more we're able to help with like breaking generational trauma and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And and with regard to that, and we all do our best, and if we're looking back and going, well, this happened, there's just can be so much shame around saying, oh my gosh, the example that I showed my child at the time,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that is not what I want for them. And but I have to say, as an adult, if you're able to tell them now, like you witnessed, what a gift that
Mm-hmm.
is, because I'm guessing you didn't have someone say that to you, you know.
No. And so that's how there's moments where, yeah, I have regrets. And that's like, if I have any regrets, that's it.
Hmm.
Other than that, I don't.
Hmm.
But I do have a relationship with them. I mean, they have watched my whole journey and I know they are proud of me every single day. And they were like my biggest fans, cheering me
Oh,
on.
Oh.
And so they get to see now, they get to know the work that I do. We have conversations about exactly like inner child healing and what it's about,
Hmm.
and things like that. So,
Yeah,
I mean, I'm grateful that I have the tools that I have.
for
And
sure.
so the best I can do now is lead a life that they get to witness
Hmm.
and be that for
Yeah.
them.
Well, witness and absorb and learn from,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that is a wonderful gift. We never stop being moms, never stop being
No.
parents, right? And even, I mean, you said how many years before you started thinking about this stuff? Yeah, I mean, I'm talking like 40s
Mm-hmm.
and 50s, right? For me
Yeah.
and later. And so it's not too late to
Oh, no, I can see how I can see what how their lives are already changing little like bit by bit from, conversations, and I know that I get to be a part of that. So,
right,
yeah, it's good.
right.
It's great.
Oh my gosh. So it just it's wonderful talking to you. And I want to close with a question. What is next for you, Paula? What now?
I think I've like it's only been the last week that I've put out the call to take people hiking and do like the healing journey with them while we're out. I would say keep the photography thing going. Pretty much it's it's enjoying my life. I feel like I'm not going to say I wasted a lot of life, but I want to live life to the fullest
Hmm.
now. Like that's my mission, is to not waste time. I'm not in a rush,
Hmm.
but I so
Yeah,
yeah, it's learning what are like just exploring the areas that pull me in and stuff like that. And
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's wonderful. I mean, like as I said, I'm 66 and I'm like, I feel in some ways I'm just now like living the life I dreamed of. And that's okay.
that's how I feel too.
And that's okay. And just enjoying that, right? And what a beautiful thing.
Well, I think you're
Well,
doing a great job.
thank you. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
And I am just so grateful that you've been a guest here today on the art of a meaningful life, living a meaningful life. See, sometimes I get confused. So not perfect over here. So not perfect over here.
The
And
realness.
yeah, I just think I'm so looking forward to watching, and I'm all for taking rests. I think it's so important to do so, and showing up in such a beautiful, meaningful way. And I will have links in the comments and in the description on how to contact you. And
Awesome. That's great.
yeah, and to have your links too, because if you're not following Paula on Instagram, is Instagram your main one? I mean, that's where I know you.
Yeah, that's where I'm there's most of my stuff is there.
Yeah, and your handle on Instagram, say that.
It is mindful adventure coaching
Mindful Adventure Coaching. You need to
and
follow.
mindful adventure photography. You
Absolutely.
can go check them both out.
Absolutely. So from this photographer to another, I love your photography. It's gorgeous. And
Same here.
I just
As
feel
a
like I,
landscaper, your flowers, that you can see how I resonate, right? Like I sit in gardens all day when I'm not coaching.
oh yeah.
So yeah, no,
Um,
I feel it and I see it.
see, so much power there in nature.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting with you in the future because I don't think we're done with this.
I feel the same.
Uh,
Thank you for having me.
thank